My sound was muted that entire time, so that's really awesome. Totally dropped the ball on that. Let me redo that whole thing. I've been talking at myself for like 2 minutes. Okay. Now that I'm not muted and it's not the fucking amateur hour over here, let me try that again. Okay. So if you've been paying attention to my YouTube channel the past week or so, you'll have seen that I've been uploading in batches the segment that I do for Punk Vacation called 15 Minutes with You, which is where I review the month's slate of releases over on the Melusine site. So all the Vinegar Syndrome hardcore titles, all the sub labels, and all the partner labels. Hi, Tony. Thank you for being here. It's been nice going through those old segments and recutting them and sort of recontextualizing them for YouTube. It was way more of a project and way more of a pain than I thought it would be, because YouTube is kind of a platform built for babies, and I had to sort of attempt to water down the content as much as possible on the front end so that I don't get in trouble by the time people actually start listening to the segment. But it's yeah, it's been nice to see how far the segment has gone, how far it's come. And I have with me the co-hosts of Punk Vacation waiting in the wings. So do me a favor, y'all, and let me know if the sound is good, because the last time I did this, I looked and my guest sound was like way too low. So I've done my best to adjust that intuitively, but if you can't hear them, let me know. But okay, we're gonna go ahead and bring in Chris Haskell and Eli Olsberg of Punk Vacation, an unofficial Vinegar Syndrome podcast. Would y'all like to introduce yourselves?
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Well, Chris Haskell here. I probably know a lot of y'all, but if I don't know you, thank you for supporting Celeste. She's awesome. And this has been a long time in the making. And I agree, October and November, well, October anyways, was just a crazy month for the Melusine side. So it'll be fun to dig through some of this today with you.
Yeah, I'm glad Chris said something, because we both just said hello, and I realized there were no names attached to that. So, but I think we look like our voices, so I think people would have figured it out.
So.
But yeah, hey, thanks for being here, everybody, and thanks for having us. I'm like really stoked. I remember when you first kind of pitched this to us, I also was like, I kind of just asked. I think I was like, hey, can I join you to talk about the October titles? Because I mean, the fact that Sato got kind of inducted into that made it even more exciting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'm getting word that my sound is echoing, so I'm double checking to make sure that that's good to go. But I think you guys are fine. It's just for whatever reason probably recording two streams of audio, and I'm not sure why it would be doing that, but I guess we'll power through and see what happens. My audio only. Okay. Let me and it wasn't doing that before, right? Like when I was, it was just me, or is this a specific Discord thing going on right now? Let's see. All right.
Well, while you're trying to fix the audio a little bit, I'll just say, Celeste, this is we've talked about this on the Punk Vacation, but coming on here, I'll say thank you again for letting me do Punk Vacation back in the day. And I've always loved your Vinegar Syndrome content. So I appreciated you being cool with me, taking on this little initiative, and then eventually even joining me. I think Eli might not be here if it wasn't for you, because it kind of teased the idea of the fact that I shouldn't do it solo. And to cover the adult content, and both things are correct. And yeah, I've been loving your segments and contribution, and then obviously really desperately needed a co-host. So Eli, I'm really happy you joined as well.
Hey, I told you as soon as Chris asked, I was like, yeah, I'm super stoked, and it's such a great. I love being able to jump on both segments, like to perv out with Celeste and also chat genre. It's like kind of my ideal sweet spot. So Yeah, I'm really stoked, and I'm also really stoked that we're like so close to. It's funny we're not even covering the November releases, which are insane. But also, I'm super stoked for Subscriber Week. I don't know how many people are actually stoked to see what's in store, but for me, it's not just like I'm mostly stoked because, um, obviously they're going to go big that week, but excited to see how big they go on the Melusine side.
It's interesting that you say big because that's one thing I noticed going through some of these films was maybe this is going to be commonplace for y'all, but I feel like in vintage porn, it wasn't always just about the massive dick. Like
Mhm.
they had like more regular human-sized penises in a lot of the stuff we're going to be talking about today, and I just want to go on the record as saying I appreciate that.
Well, I mean, people were also allowed to have like crooked teeth and hairy bodies, and it wasn't considered like a fetish if they had
Yeah,
hair.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, it wasn't a subsection in the video store yet. So like and it's funny because I feel like now there probably needs to be a video section that says like plot if it has a plot. And obviously we'll talk about that also with regards to a couple of these movies because they do have plots, but some, even the ones that don't, are still plot heavy in a way. But yeah, it definitely um, it definitely does feel like the everyman is performing in these scenes, and the every woman and every person.
Yeah, 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 yeah. More tangible.
Yeah, I and also, by the way, this was, in my opinion, a very strong year for Melusine, even beyond this month. And even beyond the Mitchell brothers, like they had some really interesting from January onward. It was like kind of an incredible release schedule. And personally, I hadn't gotten around to getting a lot of the old Picorama DVDs. So I was really happy that they got HD upgrades. So yeah, really, really, really stoked for that. To see like what they're upgrading next, and also like what uh what they're digging up, not just from like Mitchell brothers, but just in general, like what they're gonna do with the like, quality X and all the sub labels and partner labels, because obviously Celeste, she's going to talk about this, or they're going to talk about this closer to probably on the next episode. But now they're doing like Delirium home video, which is a lot of Jess Franco adult stuff, and like titles that aren't exclusive to just Vinegar Syndrome's warehouse, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So really stoked for
And
that.
Behind the Green Door is selling well. Like it's already got 2,700 copies sold, which is pretty great. Um,
Wow, that's great. How many slips did they do? 4,000?
mm,
Awesome. Yeah. Even Fireworks Woman at first felt like it wasn't selling super well, but now it looks like it's like going a lot quicker.
yeah,
Okay, I
it's
think
good.
I've done something here. Thank you guys for vamping for me.
Of
Hopefully I
course.
still have sound. If someone could let me know that you can hear me at all right now, that would be good. That
We
would
can
fix
hear
the
you.
issue. It's frustrating because if this fixed it, it's the opposite of what I did the last time to fix this, but I'll get this figured out eventually.
Oh, sound is back to normal. There you go.
Okay,
Is there
thank
is
God.
there like a chat, is there like a chat stream that I can see? Like if I can see people commenting?
Yeah, let me send you the link. You
Thank you.
can hang out in the chat as well.
Just make sure
Perfect.
your YouTube is muted, Eli, if you do it.
Oh, okay.
Good call.
But mhm, yeah. Have you, prior to this year, had you seen every single title in a calendar year from Melusine?
No, not at all.
Nice.
No, I had seen a couple things here and there, and like I would pick up stuff on sales, and I'm trying to think if I even ever bought like a new release from them before this. I just don't really buy new releases in general. Like this year, I think the only thing I pre-ordered was that new Possession set,
Mm.
which is like
Well, that's like a
I'm
must
like,
buy. Yeah, that was
oh
like a
my
day
god.
one.
I pre-ordered it the second it went up.
Which one? The second
Um,
sight one?
mm-hmm,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did too. I got it from Atomic like right away. Okay, let's see here.
I own that movie at least twice already, but I made triple dip.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
let's
worth
see
it.
here.
If you can afford it, it's worth it. Because I think it might be selling out places, and I don't have it on me, but it has. I mean, I guess it depends on how much you love this movie, because Second Sight likes to do these editions where it's like larger than like a hardback like academic like encyclopedia or something, and like that's a kind of a lot if it's just like a movie that's like a 7 or an 8 out of 10 for me. But when it's my second favorite film of all time, I'm like, make it as big as you want. I'm all here for it,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a that box is a that's a big I just got it, and good God, it is crazy. It's up there with the Hitcher
Yeah.
in terms of like size. I couldn't whew. Yeah, but I'm happy to own that too. I'm the same way. Like I've been pretty good about going back to standards
Mm-hmm.
when I can, but that one, yeah, that was a little that was kind of irresistible.
Yeah, I'm definitely like in standards mode as of late, because it's just like it's too much, you
It's
know.
too
It's
much. It's
it's
too
too
much, yeah.
much space and too much money, and you know, I just what's on the disc is usually fine. I mean, you know, I mean, I'm a sucker for the books and the booklets and stuff, but can't always have it, right? But that one, it has the script included, and it has like a big chunky book full of all sorts of like history and essays. It has all sorts of new special features. I
Yeah.
think it's the first time the American cut has been remastered in 4K, which I've actually never
Mm.
seen the American cut. I know it's not supposed to be great, but like just in terms of having the option, it'd be interesting. Um, yeah, I'm really, really like I came in and I was like, "Merry
I mean,
Christmas to me from
that
me."
movie is not a 7 or that's not a 7 or an 8 for me, that's a 10,
Mm-mm.
so
Mm-hmm.
I'll get it. I was laughing at I was walking through there's a video store here in Austin called Waterloo Records, and, I mean, it's a music store, but they have movies as well, and I
Mm-hmm.
finally got to see the imprint version of The Keep. Have y'all seen this thing?
Oh my God, no, I
Oh,
haven't seen it, but
I've
isn't
only
it like?
seen
It's
I've seen
stupid.
pictures like for reference. I've seen people on like Reddit and Facebook put like they're like, this is the keep, this is the other keep, and it literally is like the palm of your hand versus like a door.
Yeah, yeah, it's so big for that movie. That's not a 10. I mean, it's a fun movie, but that's not a
Yeah,
I
10.
like
yeah,
it. I actually
yeah,
like it a lot, but I wouldn't need a coffee table book of it for my house, you know?
yeah, totally, totally. That's
Hopefully,
like
Ricky tells me
I
this.
agree. Yeah, I also, well, you know, it's funny, just to tie this back to Melusine, when it comes to a Melusine release, that's when I'm gonna get a big book. Like that's when I want the slipcover with all the
Hmm.
stuff, because that's usually where it comes with the literature, with all the context and stuff that you need for something like this.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
you know, I mean, I'm sure there are some people who do buy it for its original intended purpose, but I would venture to say 90% of people buying Melusine titles are more in it for a sort of like you know, for the like the artifactualness of it.
Hmm. Hey Jeff, thanks for being here. Okay, so should we go over the titles that we're going to talk about today? Just like a
Absolutely.
brief rundown. Now I'm
Yeah.
live, so I meant to say this before we went live, but please be careful about what we show on screen, because I could get in trouble. Um, I'm just looking at these cover arts. I think they're all safe. Yeah, we're good to go. All right. So I think so Chris has seen half of these, and I think he said he has to take a work call at some point. So he might need to peace out after we go over the stuff that we have all seen, and then Eli, you and I can cover the other two. So I think this is the order that makes sense. The what I'm looking at right now. So we're gonna do the I haven't actually tried to pronounce this out loud. The films of Hisayasu Sato? Is that pretty okay?
Spot on. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Nice. Okay. Featuring the films Rewind, Lustmord, and Love Letter in the Sand. I guess start with the most insane shit first, right? Why not? Um,
Absolutely.
I guess that's subjective. These are all pretty out there. And then
Yeah.
next from the boy fucking goated classic man, Wes Craven, we have the Fireworks Woman, aka the Fireworks Man. Um, and then from uh exploitation extraordinaire, William slash Bill Lustig, we have the Violation of Claudia and I think I'm good. Hot Honey. And then finally, I'm not going to show this back artwork. We have Inside Jennifer Wells, which real ball knowers, all right? Jennifer Wells is
Yeah.
fucking goated, okay? So I'm
That's
excited
right.
about that. Yeah. All Melusine titles, correct, Jeff. I could be punk rock and just show it, but that might literally get my channel in trouble. So we're trying not to do that if we can avoid it. Man, let me tell you about my week. So I was like, oh, let me just pull the audio from because I send Chris the audio when I'm done, and then he stitches it into the episode, and I'm like, I'll just pull those, re-download them, throw a couple static images up, make a thumbnail real quick, put it up there. Should be a few hours, this project. Couldn't find the old files because they get auto deleted from Google Drive, I guess, after a certain amount of time. So I had to like pull the entire podcast audio from Podbean or whatever the source I used was, and then recut it down to just pull my segment from it. And then it started to occur to me as I was doing this and as I was creating thumbnails, like, oh, this is just like porn that I'm talking about and that I'm making thumbnails for. And YouTube doesn't even like it when you talk about like way less controversial stuff than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just kind of had to like re-upload and like test like different thumbnails and different static images and stuff. And I finally got it down to a science where I can upload this stuff and not get in trouble. But it took forever. It was a whole process. And you know, I gotta say, at the end of it, I am proud of myself because, I mean, we've always been talking about how like sort of thoughtfully or academically analyzing porn is like a pretty niche thing in and of itself. But of the stuff that exists, it's like entirely in academic books or on podcasts, because I think everybody kind of knew intuitively what I had to figure out, which is that it's not worth the headache to try to do this on YouTube. So like I was looking and like I'm not to like say that, you know, I'm sure there's other people that I just missed, but like I couldn't find them. So like it might just be me doing this on YouTube. And so I'm forging a path to make it, to set the precedent that this is okay to talk about on YouTube. So I'm excited about that. I'm proud of that. Hopefully it's worth it.
I think it is. I think so, because I think things are getting a little too puritanical again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think we've looped back around to a weird puritanical thing, and like even some people, I don't even think know that they're doing it, but like I think that there's this general disposition in a lot of stuff on like TV and in movies that it's just like really antiseptic and and you know, like I'm not saying that even porn from back then couldn't be clinical, but I feel like it was genuinely being transgressive still. There was still room for that in a way that's not like I don't know. Now it's like it's so much more self-aware about its transgressiveness, not just in porn. I mean, in general. I don't think porn's actually meant to be transgressive anymore. I think now it's so fetishistic that it's not transgression. It's just more commerce than ever. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, you can make the argument.
I think it's definitely more of like analogous to like pornographers are like analogous to like chefs at this point, as opposed to like
right,
because they're definitely tailoring for very specific requests and needs, and you know,
yeah,
not
exactly.
To say that there's not an artistry to it, you know. You'll never catch me discounting the contributions of sex workers to our
no, I don't disagree.
Culture,
I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah, no, I just think that, but I do think that,
you know,
it's a lot different, and it's obviously shot. You can now just shoot it on your phone, and it can look comparable to a digital camera. I mean, it is a digital camera, right? But like, you know, so it went way. The stakes were kind of different, I guess, and the approach was also obviously the form and the function were, even though it is like the same notes, the music was different, I guess. It's the best way you can say it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I guess let's get started. Let's start with the set. First in the new line, Pink Line, which I looked because there was a lot of talk on the special features for this release that Pinku films are very specific. It's very specifically like softcore shot on film outside the studio system. Like those are kind of the parameters for a pink film. And so like Roman porno and all these other things that I think we kind of lump into like Japanese hardcore and sexploitation are like technically different. And so I was like, oh, are we just doing pink films? Am I going to have to suffer 3 more sub-label fucking announcements for like the different things? But if you read it, it says, hold on, I had it pulled up. And I get this pulled back up. Labels, Pink Line. Pink Line will present exclusive new restorations of select works from key Asian erotic filmmakers. The focus on Japan's Pinku Aiga genre. So not even just Japan. So thankfully, they can kind of put anything with the vibe in that one bucket, and we don't have to have 25 more sub-labels.
Well, I know that if they're saying specific filmmakers, there's like a lot, and I only know this from like cursory research, not anything I pulled up today. But there's like the Pinku Godfathers. There was like four of them, and Sato's one of them. I wish I could tell you. This is about where it gets a little more like for me, up until this line, most Pinky in general, most Pinky films, and for people listening, they go by Pink, Pinky, Pinku, depending on the context. But I know that there's some I've seen through like I think Toei even did some, maybe I could be wrong. I don't know if it's based on like a rating, but rather than just a genre. But like I think Chris might be able to speak to this, but I think a few Mondo releases would fall under Pink, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's different companies putting their toes in the water a little bit. Mondo Macabro's done it. Now Connie has one that came out that we'll be talking about soon. But the thing that I love about this is, they like this ties well into the history of Japan overall, because Japan had a big problem competing with TV. Like once TV was introduced, it became ubiquitous very fast, and so theatrical was always struggling after the 60s, 70s, in that era. And so there was a lot, like if you look at a lot of the um, non-sex movies, but like a lot of the exploitation movies, a lot of the Hiro Ishii stuff, there was always pushing the boundaries, becoming more and more extreme. And then V Cinema came out of that because they realized that there was this incredible market for home video. So there's all these things kind of happening like at the same time. Um, and even though Japan, we were talking about going puritanical, Japan has always had this really weird tension with sex, right? Where it's like it's such a confusing culture around sex in general. But I think this was an outlet for people. And we're gonna talk about some wild shit tonight.
Yeah, I don't really feel like this is my lane, and I don't know enough about it, and I don't want to come off as like culturally insensitive or whatever, but it is kind of a stereotype that Japanese media is like the real fucking sex freak shit. And then you also hear that they're like pretty strict about like gender and sexuality and things like that. And it's
Yeah.
like, but like every single anime, they're all like androgynous and queer and all this other stuff. Like it's very like pretty consistent, you know? And I always wondered like what the tension there is. And maybe it is just a sense of it's more subversive in a culture like that.
Well,
but then I wonder why we don't produce similar outcomes, because it's also very puritanical around here, you know?
Oh, I mean, I think we did, but it looks different. What I think we had was the MPAA, because if you think of what pinkus are, right? It's you have to blur certain things. So for anyone listening, and we've brought this up before, and this is not for like the average person's consumption, but there was a very famous pink film with a wonderful, wonderful actor named Naomi Tani, called Rope Cosmetology. And I know Chris is familiar with it based on that smirk. Celeste, are you?
No, I've never heard of it.
Oh, okay. So this is a film that features a very, very intense scene that eventually culminates in Naomi Tani having to service a dog. I'll just put it that way. I don't know if that puts but I hope I said it the right way. That doesn't get the YouTube. I hope we're working. I hope we're censoring it. Okay, good.
You did.
So
we don't have to
it's
go
a very.
Crazy with it. I will never say like grape or any of this other stupid baby brain shit that's like popular right now. But you know,
right.
You're striking the balance. Okay, I think.
Okay, perfect. Well, there's this. They blur that scene out, and they blur it very specifically. And it really is an example of a filmmaker using the form kind of, it kind of says it all right there. They're showing this incredibly graphic scene. Obviously, she didn't really do it, but they used the blur to make it obviously simulate like it's happening. And yeah, Joe D'Amato would be very proud. He probably was pissed he didn't get there first. And so obviously it's this really transgressive thing. It's something that's pretty much illegal everywhere, right? And yet they get away with it because they blurred it properly. So transpose that, and that's an extreme example, but transpose that to America. Obviously that would never happen, but though I know like the Last Picture Show, there's a movie that deals with that kind of transgression, but like think of the MPAA, right? If you say fuck once, it's PG-13. If you say it twice, it's rated R. So I guess my point is it's obviously not like a 1-to-1 ratio, but those things do exist here in weird ways. And they're constantly, you'll hear all these stories in the 80s and the 90s when NC-17 got invented, how that became a kiss of death and how many times a movie went back and forth with the MPAA on just cutting 2 seconds here and 2 seconds there. And ultimately, does that really make a difference? Obviously it doesn't. And it's very hypocritical, but there's always proposed back then, like different, that it shouldn't be R or PG-13, that a movie should either be for adults or it shouldn't. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of the closest thing we have here, where it is still puritanical and it is still a scandal when you make something NC-17 or rated R. But I think what draws people to those things here is when it's a big actor who does it. So Halle Berry did Swordfish. She did a topless scene, very famously, got $500,000 just to do that scene. Sharon Stone, obviously doing the scene in Basic Instinct where she uncrosses her leg. Somehow the lighting was just right for it to be rated R instead of NC-17. So it's very weird. Obviously, Japan's got a much bigger, somehow the extreme there and the culture, there's some weird thing where you're just on both ends of the spectrum in this very intense ways. And here it's not. It's just this weird thing of just seeing how far a famous person will go, on screen. Kind of that's pretty much what it is, because every time here something like that breaks, it's always like also, oh, did they actually film penetration? There's movies that always have those rumors where supposedly they were actually having sex on camera and stuff like that.
Just not to put too fine a point in it, but we're most likely be talking about a movie in 2026 called Lolita Vibrator Torture. So, they were always pushing things in Japan a little bit.
That'll be fun for me to try.
And there's and I'm going to butcher the title, but there's a Sato title I'm sure they're going to put out called like Man, Woman, Horse or something like that, or Woman, Horse, Dog.
Yeah.
You'll know what you can make of the title, but Sato waded in those waters too, even without Naomi Tani. So like, it's just those things are, I guess, I don't know too much about Pink, but in terms of the Pink films, that's a funny way of saying that. But like, just in terms of the puritanical part versus the taboo aspect of it. Obviously, I just gave like the wildest example I possibly could because I thought that would be the easiest one. But like, I think it's here. It is in some ways. I think it's just because porn is fully legal, like in penetrative terms, that it's not based around the actual acts so much as it is around the people doing them, if that makes sense.
Hi, Adrian. Thanks for being here. Okay, so I guess let's go through these in the order that they appear on the disc. Real quick, a note that I had that I thought was a bit strange is how they sort of divvy up the discs themselves, because all of the movies are on disc 1 and then all the special features are on disc 2, and I'm like, it's a little bit counterintuitive. It's a little bit, they've done that a couple times. I mean, I know that everything couldn't fit on one disc, but it would make more sense to me to just put like 2 on one and then the features and then the third one on the other one with its features, I guess. But
yeah.
Well, that was my initial thought too, but I actually was okay with it in this time because I think the films are so short that it's easier to just have the films there. That's what I thought. Usually it's sense. I'm more in tune to like what you're saying, but for some reason with this specific one, I was like much more okay with it.
Okay, so rewind. How do I? Another thing I should say right off the jump is I found these films to be very difficult to follow. They sort of don't follow like typical narrative plot structures. Like the sex scenes kind
Mhm.
of come out of nowhere, and like typically I'm like trying to figure out like, okay, well, I mean, well, this is here for a reason. This is having some kind of narrative purpose or whatever. And I felt
I-
like it was harder in these, and then you're
yeah.
just kind of there apropos of nothing, and then we would be back to the story, and then we cut back and
So
forth, you know?
I had that thought, so I watched a rewind twice because it finished
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "What did I just see?" I did get it a lot more the second time around.
Mm-hmm.
It calmed down. It's almost like watching, since we're in Japan, it's almost like watching Battles Without Honor and Humanity, where the first time through you're just like names, families, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
then the second time you can kind of calm down and just like watch the story. That's kind of how I felt on Rewind. But it's basically a Peeping Tom sort of
Yeah.
take on that story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I found it. Oh, sorry, Celeste. I just want
No,
to
go
say
ahead.
that you know, when it comes to these movies, I surrender myself to them pretty quickly. I don't know if that sounds pretentious, but like the way I kind of approach it is I already kind of know from the jump that the visuals, like what you're gonna see, it's almost like a because one thing I already knew about Sato going into it without knowing much about the films is that he's a pretty self-reflexive filmmaker. So I kind of know that like the visuals automatically it's going to be like metaphor city, not in a bad way, but like
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of why. So it's funny. It was hard to follow at certain points just because there's certain characters that I forgot like what their roles were, like
Mm-hmm.
their jobs even, but I still when it was over um I I don't know, I got it. You know what I mean? Like I still felt like the experience like I had experienced the movie, I guess.
Right.
That was my take. So yeah, sorry, go ahead, Celeste.
No,
Basically
you're
what I'm
fine.
saying is I'm smarter than everybody. I'm just kidding.
That's true. That's true. I think we can lock that in. Um um yeah, I don't know. It's basically about this like snuff film that's going around, and then there's like a video store employee that like gets really into it, and then there's like a female detective that like wants to find out the source of it. And I guess we shouldn't spoil these, so I won't say how it ends, but I think the way it ends is really bold and like really sort of transgressive and kind of aggressive towards its audience, and I respect it on those terms. But yeah, I think these are very obviously more art films than they are like porn films. And but the thing is they still like work within the sort of grammar of porn films, so but without the like sort of
Mhm,
baseline like narrative structure to kind of stitch the things together. So it's like I don't know, it's I think it's just a sort of thing where like something that I'm coming to terms with is like when I watch films outside of my usual repertoire, it's like I'm used to like watching a slasher or watching a giallo or watching like just a horror movie in general and being like, I know exactly what's going on here. I know what this means. I know what this is representing. I know what's likely to happen next. And when you watch something that you don't watch as much of, like a Western or something like that, and you don't have those like same sort of, you don't know the tropes in and out. So like a lot of the unsaid stuff is not translating as well because you're not as in it. And these are my very, very first Pink films. So I'm like, a little bit frustrated with myself because I'm like, I fucking don't understand what's happening right now. But it's also like, okay, relax. Like this is, I think it'll get easier the more because it sounds like we have a lot to go. I think it's the sort of thing where you're gonna get used to the sort of vibe and the rhythm, and you're gonna get on the wavelength. And but yeah, it's like a double challenge because you just kind of have these like it like challenges you to like keep paying full attention because you're like watching like a pretty extended sex scene, and so you're just kind of like
mhm.
checking out a little bit like okay, we're not dealing with narrative right now, and then it'll go back to like really artsy narrative stuff, and so it's like making you pay attention the whole way through or something. Like I don't know, there's something about it that um is challenging in a way that certain other things that I'm accustomed to is not. um and it's also just so deeply like metaphorical and political and like um also the images are so arresting and transgressive and
Mhm.
like intense that you're sort of catching up with like, oh wow, I'm really am just like watching this happen. Okay. So it's a lot to ask of a viewer in like 55 minutes because these all clock in under an hour, which is crazy.
Are either one of y'all into reading manga at all?
Not as much as I used to be, but yeah.
Or you've had that in your past?
Mhm.
So
Oh, I have too. Yeah. It's been a long time, but yeah, I don't. I stopped like years ago.
okay. My experience with manga is mostly the movies that have come out of it, like Ichi the Killer or like Rikyo or
Mhm.
something. But my understanding of it is that it has a lot of the same type of torture and stuff and crazy sex, like in the adult manga. Like, is that
Mhm.
fair? Like, this is
I was
common in
reading it
Japanese
when I was a
culture.
kid, so it was more like the
Oh,
teen-oriented stuff.
okay.
But like I would kind of sneak in some reading of like some more adult-oriented stuff, and it was kind of like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, there was a place I grew up going to that had them for sure, and I would just look at them at the magazine rack and or like the bookshelf because it was a comic book shop that specialized in carrying manga, and they absolutely like all the tentacle stuff. That's where it
Right.
started. All the
Yeah.
those kinds of things like that like the hentai stuff was definitely. I know
Mm.
that's I mean that's manga adjacent I guess, but it's they oftentimes there's like overlap with a lot of those things. Um, just to add to your point, Celeste, because I think you're right on the money with like how obviously they have to meet a contractual requirement of like sex, right? It's like the Joel Silver rule for action where it has to be every 11 minutes. It clearly has to show up every once in a while in a in a pinku.
Mhm.
And I think on top of being political and obviously having to fulfill a contractual need, it also, in Sato's case, at least so far, it's very personal. I mean, all of
Mhm.
these movies are at one point or another kind of reference art in some way, shape, or form. So if it's not
Mm.
referencing movies directly, it's referencing video games. And we'll get to that in a second, obviously, with another movie. But if it's not referencing that, it's referencing the media. It has something to do with the world that Sato is adjacent to or directly involved in. And in this case, with this movie, directly involved in because it's obviously about snuff films, which are I'm sure people back then and even now would still refer to some pinky films like if they don't like them as snuff films. As like a not as a an actual snuff film, but just as a derogatory term towards them.
Mhm.
And so this clearly is like I would say, and I don't use this lightly because I think a lot of people do, but I think in the way people use Lynchian, I would say this is Verhoeven,
Mhm.
because I think he, like Verhoeven, implicates himself. I don't think he is above the material. I don't think he thinks he's above the material, and I think he is very aware that there's a push and pull, that he's probably getting off on some of this, and he also knows that it's he's a freak in a good way,
Yeah, and
but
it's
also in
like
a bad
also
way maybe.
maybe less defensible than he would like it to be, right? Yeah, I kind of
Right.
agree with you that it's not necessarily like a moralizing thing. I think it's more of like a question. Um,
Mhm.
just like, hey, let's explore this for a little bit. Like, kind of in the way that Videodrome does it. Because I know that
Right.
Videodrome was made explicitly to be like, well, people keep telling me that my movies are too violent and they create violent behaviors and stuff. Let's make a movie exploring what that would look like, right? And so it's just kind of like a
Right.
self-reflexive kind of like, hmm, let's actually self-interrogate a little bit here and, figure out what's going on here and actually explore that idea to its logical conclusion. I think there's a lot of discomfort in like the project that he's engaged in the text of this film. Um, what else was I gonna say? I think that's it for right this second.
Your point is interesting just in Rewind though, because there is a lot of that um, perspective switch about behind the camera, in front of the camera,
Hmm.
and I think the theme of like being a voyeur is so strong here,
Yeah.
and how it's like it's so closely tied into the sickness behind where the voyeuristic
Hmm.
tendencies and how closely related it is to violence. So, I mean, what you're saying makes a lot of sense comparing it to Verhoeven or Cronenberg. Like these people that are trying to almost like call it out our tendency to want to see crazier and crazier shit, right? Like that's they love to call that out. And I think
Hmm.
it seems like I don't know if that's what Sato was doing here, but I could certainly listen to that argument.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it is. It's very it's even more literal. I mean, at one point, the camera has a knife attached to it.
Right.
Um, and
literally
there's
the
like
camera as a weapon, right? Like it's not
right,
exactly
right,
Right.
yeah, which is a Peeping Tom riff, right? If I remember correctly, I haven't
Yep.
seen Peeping Tom in a long time, but yeah. So it's and then not only that, but also without giving anything away, where the supposed snuff films are made, it's surrounded by TVs. There's beautiful shots of just monitors and TVs just everywhere in various states of being on and off. I love it, and because analog was just kind of like analog video was really hitting the home market hard during that period. Sato really does a great job of like using video on film and then putting it back into video. Really creates like a really great like transmission effect. And I think because a lot of this is, I would say, a transmission.
Yeah. I think to circle back to a point you made earlier, I think I heard somewhere in the essay or in one of the commentaries that for these pink films, the contractual obligation was literally like one sex scene per reel. And when you're talking about 4 reels, you're talking about like up to 25% of the runtime, right? And so like when you're talking about a tight script at 60 minutes and you're talking about 4 sex scenes that you have to put in there somewhere, it's like there's only so many narrative excuses to get a sex scene in your movie, right? And I think that when people say that there's too much sexual violence in this, like, and so in this context, I hesitate to even call them like sex scenes because I think that rape is sort of categorically a different thing. But like in terms of what it's accomplishing visually, right, and narratively, like it's a way to sort of have both, like have some kind of narrative tension, have like something shocking and traumatic while also checking that box for the people paying the bills. And then it seems like there's almost like an act of protest in some of these where it's like, yeah, this has nothing to do with the movie, but you're gonna sit here and watch it anyway. Like, what do you want? What do you want me to do? I'm going back to my shit after this is done, but like, here it is.
I think that's
well,
stronger
yeah,
than love letters. Yeah, but anyways.
yeah, I think because at certain points, obviously, he just like, how much can you do in the movie, right? At a certain point, he probably just be like, all right, I got to shoehorn this in somewhere, so here it goes, right?
Yeah.
I wonder. I wish I knew this answer. You know, there's like Kiyoshi Kurosawa came from V Cinema, not necessarily pink films, but from home video. And Takashi Miike did. I'm sure there's more that I'm forgetting, but there's a bunch of Japanese filmmakers, and Miike even made some pink films. But like, there's a bunch of these filmmakers that started out doing home video and then became theatrical directors, and they use this as like a jumping off point. I'm curious why Sato didn't. Like, I wonder if he was so comfortable with this really uncomfortable, like extreme content. I wonder if he was kind of pigeonholed a little bit into just like pumping out more of these because like some of these movies were, I forget which one it was, but his first movie, the name is escaping me, but it was made for 8 million yen and it made 100 million yen. Like he was making money and like I'm sure his had a good life and like
Yep.
these were successful. So it's not like he needed award money. I mean, or like recognition, critical
Prestige.
recognition, but I don't know. He certainly had the skills.
Yeah, I mean, these movies are also made in like less than a week, I think, is like part of the like also sort of either definition or criteria for it is like, yeah, these things were shot in like 4 days or something crazy like that. And like,
Well, yeah, which is why it's so prolific. But also, I do I do think that's a 10,000 hours thing where he's probably making so many fucking bangers. Like he's probably doing. But what the reason I think a lot of these are good are because he doesn't have time to stop and get too precious about them, right? So
Right.
I think when you do that, I think sometimes it is good, even if it can be a little more imperfect. I think a lot of times it just because regardless, you're in an hour you're going to get the point. You know what I mean? Like you don't have time to not get the point. Right? So like I mean, which is crazy because like when you see like Japanese porn now, some of those movies are hours long. I'm talking about stuff like if you go online, you could search scenes, they are like 3 hours just one movie with the same actor. God bless them. And like the work they have to do because they still continue to push like the extreme even if it's censored. And there's a great interview. I don't remember. I think it was Asa Akira had on a very popular Japanese performer named Hitomi Tanaka. and they talk a lot about kind of the differences of like how the misogyny is embedded. But the point being is, it's just so funny to me that, and I implore everybody to check out that. I'm going based off memory. This interview was from like 5 or 6 years ago, I think, on the Hub or something. But uh, sorry, I trailed off a little, but like my point being is that it's funny that now how long these things are, that back then it was like getting you in and out as soon as possible. Because at this point, it's not like this market. It wasn't like the American market and the movies we're going to talk about a little later, where they were made for people to go into a theater and crank one out, and like it's weird when it deviates from that formula. These are at home, so he could easily just make a film that's very like just hot air. It doesn't have to be this personal. That's why it just to bring it back to Chris's point, obviously, yeah, he could have played in a different sandbox, but there's clearly a choice here. And obviously this movie is an interrogation of that choice, because yeah, he probably could have gone to do other stuff, but he obviously has a push and pull with kind of the content and what he's doing, and how there obviously he likes doing it to some degree, and then obviously there's not a shame to it, but like obviously something's also up.
Yeah, I feel like there's two types of creatives where you're like, just off the top of my head, like a Jonathan Glazer, where you like really have an idea that you're like married to, and you're gonna see it to the last possible end, and so you make a project like every 10 years or something. And then there's like Stephen King, who's just like cranking out ideas constantly. And if you're like that type of person who has like 50 ideas written down and you want to make them all, this feels like the perfect format to accomplish that. Where like you're making a movie a week, literally. Like I think it was also like more so than like American porn, like literally all they cared about was that the sex scenes were there, and everything else is expressly up to the director. So like you have like a perfect sort of like freedom sandbox, whatever you want to call it, to like put in all your political hot takes, all your like sort of personal demons, whatever the case may be, and like exercise it in this way. And like if you're just a person who constantly has ideas, like, and you can turn a profit because there's like crazy sex shit, like yeah, this is like a perfect way to like make a living, just trying out, testing out, experimenting with different ideas that you have. Like it's a really cool format.
I also, just one thing I wanted to say, this reminded me a lot of Corruption, the Roger Watkins movie. I thought of Corruption a few times, where it's obviously this person who worked like, because Corruption is, for people listening, that was like one of Vinegar Syndrome's first. Well, I don't know if it was one of their first, but it was an early restoration for them of a Golden Age adult title, and it's a very bleak, dark film that clearly is a metaphor for like the industry, specifically the adult industry. And I think there's something to that here as well, where he obviously is talking about like the kind of the Mobius strip of making these.
Yeah. I guess I won't spoil the end of this movie, but I like how it kind of it doesn't give the audience an out. It doesn't really give them a way to sort of externalize this, or like feel comfortable in that this is an issue with somebody else or something like that, right? It's very much like a, hey, bring it in, this is an us problem sort of project. Yeah. And like you can agree with that or disagree with that, depending on how you interpret what he's trying to say. But I think it's bold to not maybe this comparison is coming to mind because it's been the only thing on my mind all week, but it feels similar to like the ending of American Psycho, and how it like doesn't really grant the audience the catharsis that they probably naturally are looking for, you know? I recorded a podcast episode on American Psycho, so look forward to that. But that's why it's been on my mind all week.
Yes.
Okay. Do y'all have anything else you want to share about this film in particular, or should we move on to Lustmord, probably the most insane movie we're going to talk about today?
AKA, what is it? Pleasure Kill.
Pleasure Kill, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is essentially about, what the fuck is this movie about? Okay, there's a guy, and his mom is doing like science experiments of some kind, and his dad died, and he's going through that pain, I guess. And so he creates a serum that translates pain into pleasure. And so clearly without the approval of the ethics board or whatever, just sort of puts this into the patients who are going through a very different, it's like a skincare thing or something pretty benign.
Right.
And you can imagine how it unfolds from there. You know, if you're a real sick freak, if you're really into pain as pleasure, this one's for you.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I watched this at 8:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I this and Rewind I watched both at 8:30 in the morning. I actually I take that back. All three I watched at 8:30 in the morning before breakfast. It became a theme. It's the Sato challenge, and I implore all of you to take it. It yeah, so first off, there's an awesome video game motif that kind of runs through this. It's actually
Mhm.
central to the plot as well. There's clearly like a commentary on people stuck glued to the screen playing video games all the time. I guess that's like the like boomer equivalent of like TikTok being glued to like your cell phone screen or something. But
Video game brain,
I
gamer
right,
brain,
exactly.
the real
Well,
thing.
so here's what blew my mind before I get into the actual movie itself. I thought the video game was specifically made for the movie itself, because this has a really cool, all of Sato's movies have like a cool industrial thing going on score wise.
Mhm.
Very, very similar to Tsukamoto, and
Yeah.
specifically obviously Tetsuo. And I can only imagine the influence Tetsuo actually had on Sato. I actually think there's something, even though some of these actually, sorry, other way around. Some of these may have also influenced Tsukamoto. I wouldn't be surprised. Because he
I
he
don't
has a
have the years
similar
off the top of my head, but either way, I
I,
could
I
see
well,
that connection happening.
yeah, well, this beat Tetsuo to the punch by about 2 years.
Okay.
And one thing I'll say is that it uses an industrial score really, really well. But sorry, again, tangent town there. But I thought the video game that was central to the story, it uses the music as like during the credit sequences, and the music for this video game fucking slaps. I'll just start there. But secondly, um, I thought the video game was specifically developed for the movie, and it turns out it was a real video game called Valis, the Phantasm Soldier. And it never came out in America, but it was one of the top selling games in Japan that year.
Mm.
It is incredible that he cleared that video game for this movie. And if you're watching or listening and that doesn't blow your mind, it's because you haven't seen the movie yet. If you have seen the movie, you'll know it is fucking crazy that a Pinku could license a video game, not only a video game, but like a top selling video game in Japan that year.
Interesting.
And it,
It's like if Mario was in the Toolbox Murders or something like that,
right. Yeah. I don't even know what or like even in Videodrome, like he just like Donkey Kong just throwing
Mhm.
barrels at James Woods and he's coming while I don't even know. But anyway, yeah, I think this is also exhibit A for what we're talking about, which is that you have this really transgressive imagery, and there's stuff in here that of all the three movies, and it even made me squirm. And I don't squirm very
Mhm.
often at stuff. This one really had me like I made a choice to watch this before breakfast, and I had to pay the piper when it was time to eat. But um, I all that said, for as transgressive and disgusting as it is, I thankfully wasn't eating spaghetti right after this, but or noodles, I should say. But
Mhm.
it's all in service of a lot of the same stuff. We're talking about Cronenberg, like it
Mm.
kind of it beats Crash to the punch. And it reminded me a lot of Abel Ferrara's confessional style in his movies. I think it really is but what I mean by confessional style, it's kind of the same thing. I think Abel Ferrara in a lot of his movies, it's obviously a more he takes a more literary approach at times with stuff like The Addiction, but like when you have stuff like Miss 45 or even as like Bad Lieutenant, where it's this really transgressive stuff, but it's obviously him working out his demons. And so I think this is that. I mean, obviously, like it's a movie about a teenage boy who's controlling women. That's not that hard to take a director directing porn, right? It's the same thing. It's the same
Mhm.
thing. So, I mean, Rewind, it was with the camera. Here, it's with controlling what the making women like sex hungry pain freaks who want to, so like I don't know, yeah, it just reminds me of all those things.
I actually think it might be important because for people that haven't seen it, they may be wondering a little bit about what we're talking about. So,
Yeah.
and you mentioned it, Celeste, and you mentioned it, Eli, but this is a drug. So this guy's dad was disbarred from the Association of Japan or whatever for doing unethical treatments. We don't know for sure that it was the exact same thing, but he has this weird respect for his dad, and I think he's trying to kind of almost take on his footsteps. And the mom keeps telling him throughout the movie, like, "I'm worried about you. Like, you're doing the same kind of stuff that he was doing." And even before she finds out that he was sneaking into her tests and putting the serum in. But it turns, like, just to think about this for a second, because I think this is a critical part, it turns pain into pleasure. So if you think about that just as like a thought exercise, what Sato does in this is he explores all the different ways that you can start to kind of build on that, right? So they look, as opposed to looking for better orgasm, so to speak, like pleasure side. Now they only get pleasure from pain. So the movie just goes deeper and deeper into hurting themselves more, and like really difficult stuff to watch, because not because they're trying to hurt themselves, but because it feels so good,
Mm-hmm.
and they have these like physical consequences of the pleasure. But they can't stop. They're like addicted to this feeling of I don't know if he's tweaking oxytocin or dopamine. I don't know what he's tweaking, but they can't stop. They're like addicted to it, right? And so they just like it's one of those ones where I think the slow bits in the beginning. Another movie I watched twice, and you may wonder how, like, why I did it twice.
Well,
Yeah.
they're so short, you might as well. I almost, if I had more
Right.
time, I probably would have. And I sort of did it with the commentary to kind of help me
Yeah,
re-engage with the material, right? But yeah.
I mean, they're like, that's exactly it. They're short, but the slow parts in the beginning, I think, really help because it's so much as the movie goes into the second half. It's just so intense and so uncomfortable that I think you need that build up, and you need to see this awkward kid, like, who's not good with women, and like you need to see all these kind of almost like what's that movie, Lost in Translation. I'm not comparing the two movies, but there's those awkward scenes with Bill Murray when he just doesn't know what to do in the same room as Scarlett Johansson.
I've actually never seen it.
Oh
No
no, okay, okay.
judgment.
Oh, okay.
It's exactly like Less Worn.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
keep that
yeah. It's
expectation in check.
less more in translation. That's what the
Less more than translation. Perfect double feature.
yeah, I think Chris is spot on. I think that's right. I think that I just again, it's like that self-reflexive style there, and obviously he's pushing it in a way that we can't even say out loud on here what you see in there, but and that
I
could
also
be more
wouldn't want to
alluring
ruin
to
it. I
you.
wouldn't want to spoil it for you. You have to sit
Right,
with this,
exactly. Yeah, you little sick freaks, get in there, jump in. The water's warm.
Yeah, it's
And
great.
filled with hot noodles.
Hot noodles. All of the essays in this book are really great, so prioritize it because it's selling pretty fast. But I mean, not to FOMO you all or whatever, but like if you want to get it, you should prioritize it because it's like I think there's 1,000 out of 4,000 left, which is pretty good for the Melusine side. Also, I think there's a nice irony in the fact that I think by far the most fucked up release of this slate is on the Vinegar Syndrome side.
Yeah, and you can buy it. You can also buy it on Vinegar Syndrome. So I think that's
Exactly,
also
like
why it's moving a lot. Yeah, it's crazy.
right. Like these are the ones that aren't like categorized as adult titles on Letterboxd and stuff, and yet they're way more like. I would much. I don't know if I should say this. Like I think that these are way less appropriate for like a younger audience than just like your standard porno, right?
Oh,
But that just
absolutely.
goes to show you our bizarre like prioritization of like sex versus violence in terms of which is more taboo and which is more unacceptable.
Right.
So the booklet's great. All three of the essays are great, but I wanted to especially shout out Tori Potenza. Their essay is incredible, and it's on this film in particular, and it really helped me understand, I mean, what was happening in it, but then also like the themes surrounding it. I just feel like modern horror movies really get a bad rap for like, oh, every single thing is about grief and trauma, and like that's true, but like so is this, and maybe it's just that they don't outright say it, that it's like less annoying and like the more classic stuff, but I think horror as a genre is kind of inherently about trauma, you know. Um that's just something that I've been thinking about a lot.
I mean, even on the lighter side of things, Guillermo del Toro talks a lot about how he's always sympathized with the monster, even as a kid, because he saw himself as a monster. And
Mhm.
so, like in his movies, he always, or he was in like Universal horror and stuff, he was always sympathetic towards the monster. And I think that is an interesting thing, like a metaphor for a lot of why people dive into horror to begin with, right?
Yeah, I agree. Although I do think it is kind of like I do think it's the golden age of being
Mhm.
over literalizing it.
Mhm.
I think we live in an era where it's just so exhausting. Even Guillermo del Toro, to a fault, kind of
Yeah.
post Sh- Shape of Water has really, I think, even fallen a little bit to that trap once in a while. But
You're
like,
not
I
wrong.
think yeah, it's just you're right, because all this old stuff is obviously like in the 70s a lot of it was like post Vietnam stuff and family unit stuff, and then in the 80s it became about like obviously like punishment for like not being pure, or being like specifically with slashers. But like yeah, I do think that they were also aware that they were a lot of it was entertainment first, and a lot of it came subconsciously, or like in ways that, because they were produced on such like a factory line feeling sometimes, that
Mhm.
those things were like inherently built in. Now things are so postmodern that like you almost have to be ahead of the audience addressing it, or it just has to be so like it's practically like the movie almost comes like with the production company name and then the Gerber's baby food symbol right under it, because they're about to
And
spoon
feed you
feed
the
it
whole
to
time.
you. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
such pablum. So like I don't know but it like you said, it's nothing new. Even movies from the 80s sometimes aren't subtle about it. But I don't know, like when fucking Halloween Kills, like Michael wears the mask but everyone's the monster. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
please just put my hand in a running garbage disposal and just run it. I can't sit here and watch this. I need to be in some kind of other pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that part is true, and I think it's also like I wonder how much of it is like because these films are a little bit more overt about it, like normal people are noticing as opposed to like horror people, and so like your average like critic or movie goer or whatever is like, wow, that one was really deep. It was like about trauma and grief and stuff. And
Mhm.
it's like then like people like us are like, hey man, where you been? Yeah. Yeah, that's like the whole thing. Like
Yeah.
Been here
Well,
for a while.
here's actually, I really want to add something to that. I think the other problem is there's a real joylessness to it. And I'm not saying obviously horror movies are bleak, but like look at
mm,
Sato's movies.
mm-hmm,
Joy might not sound like the right word, but the excitement of filmmaking exists in these movies. He's
mm-hmm,
obviously excited by making these movies. I
Yes.
sometimes feel like what you're watching now, sometimes they're just so stripped of like any sense of like excitement of
Mhm.
the person making the movie. You know what I mean? Like it's
mm.
it's a hard thing to describe, but like what I mean is
No,
I'm sure the person's
I know
happy
what
to.
you're saying.
It just has this joylessness to it. And Gregor Rocky's actually called it out. Like someone asked him if he liked Euphoria, and he's like, no, the Euphoria is such a joyless show. And I don't think he said joyless, but he said something to that effect where he's like, this show just doesn't seem like it's excited to exist. Like the filmmakers seems like it's any, and I think he's right. I think Euphoria sucks shit, but that's not really the point here. But I just wouldn't take up a chance to not disparage it. But I also think like would this be a good bridge? Because I actually wanted to talk about this in the next movie. I don't know if there's anything
Yeah,
else you
yeah,
guys
yeah.
wanted
But
to
I
say
think
about
I'm
this.
pretty
Oh,
I was waiting for the good transition on it, so I'm
perfect.
ready to go.
So I'll let you introduce the movie. Just if you want to say what it's called. It goes by two titles.
Yeah, the one on the packaging is Love Letter in the Sand, which sounds like a really nice sort of romantic
Yeah,
film, you know?
yeah. It also goes by like Pervert Ward.
Yeah.
Pervert Ward. I think that's the better title, if I'm being
Oh,
completely
Yeah.
honest.
absolutely.
I
That's
think that
please
that's
put.
great.
Yeah, that's. I think
It's
that's what we're
per-
all going to get sentenced to when it's time.
Hmm.
When
exactly.
we all get carted away.
That's where you're
Yeah.
going.
So
Yeah.
this is a great example of something like we're talking about metaphors. So this movie opens. I actually can. Sorry, you know what? I just realized I didn't have this pulled up in terms of. I guess I should tell people what it's about, because um, it's about a nurse who is like germophobic, and is dealing with a patient who has amnesia. She's like treating him, and people think he's like a serial attacker going around hitting people with a metal bat, and like that's kind of all I'll say without giving anything away. But the movie opens with
It also has
with
a
an assault.
bizarre understanding of how HRT works, which is
Yes,
fun to me.
that's right. Oh my God. Um, yeah, that's I don't. It's hard to even set that up. Like you'll have to see when everyone listening, when you watch the movie, you'll kind of get a better idea. But uh, so in the film, it immediately opens with an assault scene. Like
Yeah.
literally, right? I think it is 90 seconds into the
Frame
movie.
one.
There's a
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a sexual assault scene, but it happens in a print shop, which is the equivalent of like a Kinko's, more like Kinkies. Sorry, I couldn't
Professional
resist.
comedian, everybody.
That's right. That's why they pay me the big bucks, folks. That's my mic drop moment.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so there's a she's in like she's making copies of something, and then someone comes up behind a woman, starts assaulting her, and while it's happening, the copy machine keeps running. That's as big as a metaphor as it gets of cranking out these movies, like a sexual assault happening literally over a copy machine that keeps copying and copying, and also making this like artful light that's going over the scene while it's happening. But that is as literal as it gets, but it's so it's such a obviously a unique way of expressing that, and it has like such it's so spontaneous. It doesn't feel like at any point, like I feel like here, if that happened in a movie, you'd be getting winked and nudged while it's happening. Like people would be removing themselves from the scene in some kind of ironic fashion. And there is not a shred of irony here to be found or any kind of self-awareness other than the commentary of obviously what you're seeing and what he has to do, which is make copies and more copies of these movies. Because
It's a
he
really
eventually
smart observation. I got to be honest, I didn't pick up on that, but that's exactly right.
Oh, told you folks, smartest guy in the room right now. Just kidding. I really did. Like as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Holy shit!" I was genuinely like blown away because it's very literal, but it's so spontaneous or it's so surprising. And I don't know. I think that it's not postmodern enough to be wink, wink, nudge, nudge about it, or just find some way to remove itself, from not
very
himself.
metatextual. There's another one of
Yes.
my sort of hobby horses where it seems like everybody thinks that horror didn't get self-referential until Scream came along, and it's like, well, there's so many movies that like are like metatextual in this way, or like even more overtly than this is being. And like, okay, yeah, Scream just like kind of wrote it all out for you, but like it's definitely not the first one, you know?
No, not at all. I mean, if you really want to say the first one, I mean, obviously Wes Craven's New Nightmare was
Yeah,
like
like
a
he even
warm
did
up
it
for
himself
Scream.
first, you know?
Yeah, and also in hell, even Friday the 13th Part 6, it's more of a parody version of that where there's characters breaking the fourth wall. Like one guy like literally does like the thing where he's like, this didn't happen to the other guy kind of thing. He literally looks at the camera. I mean, it's definitely not the first time. I think Scream was the genre was so dead that it was such a like a resuscitator, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I do want to like. I don't know if this is the best time to do it, but now that we brought up all three movies, there's something like that I was thinking about as I was going through this set. If you had told me that this was three different directors, I would have believed you. Like I
Interesting.
think there's definitely themes that are consistent, and like we've talked about some of the way that he explores culture and right, and some of that which is consistent in the way that he writes, maybe. But the visual style of all these is different. I think the way that he uses like home video and rewind is different than the other movies, right? And like Love Letters in the Sand has this sort of surrealism moments where she'll be like dipping her hand into sand and then the scene transitions into some kind of fantasy or her past. I think it's I don't know. I think it's a fantasy. But like this is the thing I'm most excited about to dig into more of Sato's work is I don't think that these three movies were really that much the same at all outside of being Pink films. And I love that about it. Like, that's super interesting that he's so versatile.
Mm.
Mhm.
In the way that maybe Takashi Miike is very versatile. You know, a lot of these directors kind of find their style, but to me, Sato is somebody that at least 3 movies in, I haven't really seen like a certain style from him yet. And that's super exciting.
Yeah, maybe it's just the sort of ways in which I feel like all of these films are kind of, I mean, they're the similar runtime and the similar kind of plot structure and the similar kind of art house surrealist sensibilities. Like they definitely felt like 3 takes on the same sort of general concept, I feel like almost, but I see what you're saying too. And yeah, I mean, bro made like 60 of these, so like there's lots to go.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think you're right. I think they are different. I think what is very smart about this triple feature is they do have like similar themes in different
Mm-hmm.
executions,
Yeah,
right? So like I
yeah.
think that is the really great through line is that they're all metatextual takes on, one is through the camera, one is through controlling the characters, the other is like literally trying to mess with like everything from gender to trauma, but like they all deal with that in different aspects. Each movie deals with that. So you're right. It's like they're in the same building, but different parts of the building, right? It's like the same
Mm-hmm.
office, but they're on separate floors. And
Yeah.
it's a different department and a different supervisor at each one. I don't know where the hell that analogy came from, but like that's the
No,
best
no,
way.
it works. It works.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get shit for this, and that's fine. I can take it. I was watching a bunch of Otsu's movies recently, Yasujiro Otsu, and
Mhm.
I know he's a master and all these things, like fine, and I did enjoy them. But I saw 6 movies from him that were almost comically the same.
Mm.
Like, I'm sure if you look across, he's directed 100 movies. Like, I'm sure his career varies a lot. I'm not making a comment on his entire filmography, but all the ones that are like winter, summer, August, June, all those movies.
Mhm.
Um, Jesus, man. Like, but if you watch them close together, it's just literally like the same thing, and it's beautifully shot and well acted. But like, I just start to feel like I get it. A single woman in her 30s is having a hard time leaving her parent who's sick, and she's got some tough life decisions to make. Like, I can't do this 6 times in a row. And so I like
You're
the
either onto
diversity.
something or this project has broken your brain entirely. It's one of those two things. I'm not sure which.
So Sato over Otsu. That's my
Mm-hmm.
point.
There you go.
Woo! That's a statement. Well, we've got it on record.
There you go.
Let's see.
You
No,
thought
I'm
you
okay
Yeah,
thought
I
you
with
mean,
said
points.
it
I just
live.
appreciate the diversity. That's all.
right, right. Well, I mean, hey, and this is just volume one. So we're volume two is already here. We already have them. All three of us had them delivered
They
already.
already said
So
volume 3 is coming on the first too, so we're
yep, exactly. Yeah.
going through
Well,
it.
if I remember correctly from the interview with Joe, Chris, didn't he say like the first three because that's just what they had cleared quicker in terms of like what they could restore, but there are other filmmakers coming to that line later in the
Mm-hmm.
year.
Right.
Yeah, I was wondering
Definitely.
how long they were gonna go with just this guy. And I'm like, I mean, I hope there's other stuff. I mean, I like this, but like,
Yeah.
it'd be nice.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm all for it for now, just because I this was such a strong set that
Yeah.
and I'm kind of relieved that the second volume's only 2 movies. I just feel less pressure.
Mm.
But I kind of want to keep the 8:30 a.m. theme going, so I'm going to
Yeah,
keep
go for
watching
it.
them
Do you
first
know
thing
if
in
the
the morning
runtimes
while
on the volume 2 are longer?
not by much. Like literally like 65 minutes, 71 minutes.
Okay.
And yet none of
Okay.
them are 69 minutes. Why aren't we having fun? Come on, guys, huh?
Why
Let's
aren't we having
Sato, what's
fun?
going on?
Yeah, where's the
Let's
joy?
get
Where's the
yeah, where's
joy in
that
this
joy I
project,
keep
huh?
talking about? Come on.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the set. I really like challenging myself kind of and like sort
Mhm.
of getting into new paths and new styles and new scenes and all this other stuff. And especially when you're talking about golden age porn, like, you can expect kind of the same thing a lot of the time. Like the Picorama line, I feel like is very much you know exactly what you're gonna get. And this was very
Mhm.
out there. And it's nice to have to watch stuff, and so it can be a little bit frustrating or whatever, but it's nice to watch something and be like, I don't have any point of reference or any bearings for this. I'm just sort of wading in uncharted waters right now and seeing what happens. This third one is the one that has the like massage sex scene right at the beginning, because that was the
Yep.
one where literally I was like, who are these people? Why are they having sex right now?
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with what I was just watching. Did I miss something like really big or something? And then I was like, it must make sense when the scene ends. And then it didn't. I was like, I don't know. Still don't know who that is. Still don't know why that happened. What's going on? Okay, that's fine.
I will say though, like the
It's a memorable
Japanese
sequence.
blowjob, like the Japanese blowjob, and specifically what I mean is where everything stays in the pants. That the way that these movies showed it, it was pretty erotic. Like the actual sex in these movies, I felt was when it was consensual and when it was romantic in nature, which is not all of them, but it was pretty erotic actually. I think they had the pacing right. Like the actors were good at like
Yeah,
seemingly wanting to be there, and that part was nice.
yeah. There, yeah. There's something to working within constraints that breeds creativity, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's pretty good. Um,
Yeah.
I also just need to give a quick shout out in the first film. I really love how they put in the how they put in the snuff tape, and the girl says to her brother, "Wow, let's commit incest," and then they just do it, and it's like, sure,
Yep.
why not? Just immediately, okay. I like how she just says it like it is too. Like, let's do this
Quite
specific
a.
thing.
It's going to be quite a theme today with
It sure
incest.
is. It sure is.
This isn't the last time
Isn't
you're
it
going to be hearing about it,
always?
folks.
I feel like
Wouldn't
I'm
Yeah.
be
always
Vinegar
talking about
Syndrome.
incest on this segment, so I don't know.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, that's one
Speaking of
down.
incest,
An hour and a half later, that's one down. So let's go to the next one from filmmaker Wes Craven. I've been hearing about this film for years. I've been wanting to see it for years. It's finally here. Fireworks Woman. I thought this movie was great. I really liked it a lot. Not to disparage Bob Chin or any of the other classics that we see film after film of, but sometimes you get one like this where you're like, okay, yeah, this guy knows how to make a fucking movie, and he's just making porn this time. You know, like the narrative was there, like the shots were there, the creativity. It's really good. Like it's a banger. I liked this one a lot. It's essentially about a brother and sister who realize that they're in love with each other, consummate that feeling, and then the brother's like, well, can't be doing that. So he becomes a priest, and she spends the runtime of the film being like, I'm gonna veto that, and you should be with me instead. And just makes various attempts to make him happy and change his mind and this, that, and the other. A lot going on in this one. I've seen it claimed that Wes Craven invented incest porn with this. That feels like it can't be true, but maybe I could posit it to the group. I feel like there has to have been something before this that, like, if not just incorporates it, like is the conceit, right?
Yeah, I mean, this was 1975, and there was a lot of debate to that with regards to when he made it, because some people thought he may have done it before. He obviously did it before The Hills Have Eyes, but he did actually do this after Last House on the Left. And I can't say, look, I think I have a pretty good knowledge on, I actually can't think of movies before this that had it. But the thing is, there were already loop carriers, and loops were especially designed to be they were fetish. You could literally make whatever you wanted. You could pay people and they would make it. So maybe it did like create a watershed moment for incest in feature length porn films.
I mean, if it did. It's just like, that's crazy that bro is like trend setting this whole career, you know?
Right. But the only reason I don't know if I buy that is I feel like that obviously didn't hit really hard until around Sunny with Candido Royale, which was in 1979. And then in 1980, obviously the Taboo series. So that's a pretty big gap between those movies to say that that's what influenced it. I don't know that influenced it. And there obviously were other movies in between that had it. But I don't know that I wouldn't say he invented it for sure. But even though I don't have enough to back it up, I just, I don't know. It's 1975. It's not like he, porn was already, the golden age was already 5 years in. I'm sure there's some movie. It could even be a lost film.
No,
Yeah.
I promise. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Celeste. I'll say my point.
Oh, I was just gonna say that the visual essay on this did kind of at least imply that when he was tasked to do this, he was like, well, what's the most extreme sort of subversive thing I could think of to like destroy the family unit, as he had done a few times throughout his career on account of his fucked up upbringing. That'll do it to you, I can tell you that. And he was like, yeah, let's do this. So it doesn't seem like he was pulling any direct inspiration from anywhere, and it was just kind of like, well, if I'm deconstructing family as a concept in American life, let's do this.
Actually, that's exactly where I was kind of going with it too. And I promise I'm going to tie it right back around to the movie. But I have a son, and the parents right now are engaged in a lot of discussions about how they're raising their kids, because like that's a very natural thing to do as your kids get older, right? And there's one particular family that's super strict, really hard on their kid, on their boy. And I would never show them the movie necessarily because they're very puritanical. But there's a interview on here from one of Wes Craven, either childhood friends or at least longtime friends.
No, it was a professional. It was Roy Frumkes who wrote Street Trash. He also worked in porn, and they were like they went to college together, I believe, and yeah. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah, perfect. So he basically lays it out, right? Like a lot of Wes Craven's personality and like a lot of the stuff that he makes is because he wanted to rebel, and like because he just had a lot of anger towards his parents. And like I kind of want like
I might know something about that.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're
Right.
no, I think that's so like totally what he's doing. And also what's funny about the movie is, so just to kind of clarify a plot point, the sister isn't just trying to like get her brother to leave the priesthood. She also is, rather than taking like this vow of chastity that he takes, she goes the opposite direction. She just starts trying everything under the sun. She becomes like a submissive for this like controlling couple. At one point they
From the
like
church,
make her
right? Like they're like staff at the church, and like
Yeah.
they
right.
are like horrific fucking people. I don't know, something's
Yeah.
going on there in
Good
terms of
metaphor.
social commentary, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
And
Just like the
like,
concept of sexual control in the church.
right. And so she keeps going into getting into these more like obviously more out there scenarios, and also there's like a pretty brutal assault scene. And
Yeah, it's pretty
it's
rough.
interesting. Sorry, just to be clear, I don't think the assault scene is interesting. What is interesting is he one thing that Craven has always had is this weird slapstick humor in his movies. Like even in Nightmare on Elm Street, there's an entire segment that plays like Home Alone, right? Where she sets all the booby traps, and the way he gets hit, it looks funny. It plays as funny. And people under the stairs, like you see that throughout all his films. And well, actually, Last House on the Left had it. There's literally like slide whistles playing when the cops show up and like start being slapstick morons. And even Last House on the Left has it. So the reason I'm saying all of this is that somehow shows up in this as well. Before she gets assaulted, there's two guys who get in a fight with gigantic fish. They start hitting each other
when
with
you
like literally fish. You know,
when you were like, I'm not saying the assault scene is interesting. I'm like, well, I kind of am. Like, I've never
yeah,
seen it
actually,
play out like this before.
it is
It's
right.
pretty interesting.
It's well, I guess it was the verbiage. I didn't want people to think I'm like,
Yeah.
assault is interesting. Just the fish fight is hilarious. And
Bro gets
what's
knocked
really
out with a giant
incredible,
fish who makes a cameo
Yes.
later in a shot that made my jaw drop. I'll just say that.
Same here. Even as much as we were talking about Pinky films and Sato, this honestly is a Pink film moment. Practically, like
insane.
it's insane that the fish that assaults somebody that is used as a weapon pays off later in a porn scene. I'll let you guys obviously will be surprised. No need to ruin it for the listener or the viewer. But it even ends, that scene with the fish at the end ends with the guy looking at the camera and winking.
Exactly.
Which is so funny to me. But like every other like, okay, so I've said this time and time again. Golden Age films are the best ones, the ones that have the most staying power, usually fall into two categories. They're either like really great like slapstick comedies, or they're just really bleak, almost anti-porn, and this very much falls in that category. Very rarely is this erotic. The assault scene is played out fairly realistically, like down to seeing even if when you see the penetration, it's not enjoyable. At no point can I picture anybody watching this movie going like on their lunch break in their raincoat, sneaking in to crank one out and being like, yes, this is what I paid to watch. I'm gonna blow a load and go back to work. At no point does this movie provide that. It doesn't provide that release, a literal release. I feel like there's like one giant orgy scene that I felt like he thought he had to. He's like, maybe this will just give the people what they want. But for the most part, it's like really artfully shot. There's like just this, it plays like a memory piece. It's got this like hazy seaside cinematography, almost like Jess Franco-ish. And I don't
Yeah, I
know,
wonder
just
how much of
it
that is
really,
because it's not the best print, and so it's not as pristine as it could be. I know that they're not super happy with like the materials they had. I wondered how
Mhm.
much of that sort of haziness is due to the source material, but regardless, I think it really works.
Yeah, it
Well, yeah,
works.
it wasn't shot on 35. I think it was shot on 16, so it's still gonna have that grainy. Like,
Hmm.
I still think a lot of that is because of that. I think in regards to that, it would be more the like not the damage, but like the what's the word I'm looking for? I guess my point is though that it would still be pretty close to that. I do think it would have that even if they went from the negative. It just might be a little sharper,
Hmm.
but it would still be soft.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and I really love that.
have a question for y'all. Something I didn't understand in the movie.
Mhm.
Maybe y'all can help me.
Sure.
There's a lot of discussion about the woman in the film, the lead, having this hook into people where they become like rabid sexual animals when they get around her. It happens in the assault scene, and it also happens later on. It just like she has this magnetism that just seems to just people can't control themselves. Is that ever explained, or is that just something that's kind of thrown into the movie? I couldn't. I was trying to think back of like, was there a point this was introduced?
My interpretation is that Wes Craven's character, the fireworks man, like is the devil, and he's like put a curse on her such that
Yeah,
she
something like that. It comes
has like
off
an
like that.
insatiable, and that's like why she falls in love with her brother and why all these other subsequent things keep happening. Um, I think with that
Well,
framing, I think it becomes a kind of a pro incest movie, if I'm being completely honest, in that like the most tender and romantic parts are those parts, and it kind of has a happy ending for them. And I'm like, I don't know, this is bold. This is bold, you know?
well,
Eli,
I'll
what do you
add to
think?
that. Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that is very spot on. I think the movie is, I think it's pro, like what I actually think the movie is. I think it's just anti everything else rather than being
Hmm.
pro incest, right? It's just
Pro following
being
your heart,
anti, right? It's
being
it's a
yourself.
great, yeah,
Okay.
pro like obviously like it's dealing with guilt and repression. And so it's like, well, guilt and repression are emotions, right? And so they can be overcome. There's a great speech that wait, sorry, I want to answer your question real quick, Chris, which is that I think it also is used obviously as a point of being like, for a man to deal with this, he just joins the priesthood and has to become chaste, because if not, they people see women as these inherent things that men fight over, and because you know what I mean. Like I think it's a, I think I don't know if that's why I don't know if that's what the devil creates, but I think that's part of it. Um, and I'm paraphrasing it, but she has a conversation with Wes Craven at one point. And by the way, Wes Craven had to cast himself last minute. There was supposed to be a real Hollywood actor in this part. I forget his name, but he dropped out last minute. And like Abel Ferrara when he made Nine Lives of a Wet, I don't know, can I say? Yeah,
You can say
why am I
whatever you
being
want.
like? Okay, great. Nine Lives of a Wet Pussy. Um, he had to cast himself, but whereas Abel had to perform sexually on camera, Wes didn't have to. Um, and okay, so the quote is, I actually pulled it up while we were talking about this, but he says, "There are no mysteries that can't be untied, no fights that can't be won, but it'll cost you something." And I think that is both metaphorical for his filmmaking, and I think that is also about the cost of happiness. And I think that the movie really ultimately explores like what the personal cost of these things are, because you can't make a decision without it having some kind of effect, whether you want it to or not, right? Impact and intent are two different things. And so whatever you do, whether it's society that's judging it or that's my take on it. I think it's a very beautiful quote. I think it's really, really, and I don't even know if he's like maybe quoting from the Bible or something, but yeah, I also think it's very poetic that and this isn't spoiling anything. The last shot of the movie is Wes Craven as the devil looking at the camera while smoking and like with a top hat and fading out. I think given that he passed away, I actually thought there was like an unintentional emotional resonance to that. But it also is just very fitting that it's him being like, all right, I'm out. I made my porno. Time to go make a mainstream film again.
I'll make my
Wow.
millions.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good. I think this movie
Thank you.
fucking rules. I think it's really good.
Yeah. Agreed.
I think
Agreed. I think it's
kind of,
one of one. Both of these are like the best releases from Melusine, like of
Mhm.
the year. They're in the top like 3.
Yeah, it's really good stuff.
And first Jamie Gillis sighting of the day.
Yeah.
In a minor role, believe it or not.
My man. Yeah, it was in
Yeah.
one of the features where they were like, Jamie's the guy you call when you need a connect for he's like your plug for like a bunch of adult actors, and they were like, we need an orgy, call up Jamie, and he's like, all right, let me round up the crew.
Yeah.
Which
Awesome.
checks out, I think. I think he's
Yeah.
like my most like consistent, like I think he's my favorite male actor in porn, like for sure. Like whenever he shows up, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly. He's one of my favorites because you're getting someone who's genuinely in the moment,
He's a
and
good actor too, and he just has a
he's a
good
good
presence.
actor.
He's just
He
magnetic, you know.
totally,
Yeah.
and that actually for one of the films we're going to cover, I really cannot wait to talk about that magnetism. But the other thing I really love about him is he just obviously he his later life got really well, it's something, but he's like one of the only guys who really was in porn because he loved it. Like when he wasn't making porn, he was still doing some fucking freaky deaky shit, whether it was while he was married to Serena or later on. And I'll let everyone else Google what he was up to in the 90s up until his death, but it was not pleasant. It got a little icky, but like he nonetheless, yeah, he is someone who just he had no illusions about what he was making, but he also enjoyed what he was making. And
Yeah.
so whether it's a little too sadistic at times, that's obviously for you to decide. But like yeah.
Right on. I think that is all my thoughts on Fireworks Woman. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to cap it off with?
No.
Not at
The
all.
first 10 minutes, I was like, oh god, this is gonna be really boring. But it was not boring. It got great fast. Very
Yeah.
captivating.
Yeah.
100%.
All right. Chris, do you wanna stick it out, or do you need to head out?
Well, are we doing Behind the Green Door tonight or no?
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Then I haven't seen anything else we're gonna talk about, I think. So I'll say thank you so much for letting me jump on, and I'll let you two
Yeah, of
experts
course.
finish off. But I'm really happy to be watching these movies. I mean, both of these ones, the Sato, I guess I would have seen anyways because they're kind of through Vinegar Syndrome.
Mhm.
Um, Even though I agree it's weird that they're on there and not these other ones. Probably wouldn't have seen Fireworks Woman without this to do. I mean, I don't know. Or yeah, a lot of the ones that we watch I wouldn't have seen, and they're great, and I'm really loving this. So I really appreciate y'all opening my mind, and it's crazy to see how much y'all know about these. So I'm enjoying listening and learning.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
can't wait to nudge you into watching more.
Yeah, watch them together.
Perfect. Like,
Watch
yeah,
Party in
that's
the
gonna be a
morning.
great viewing party.
All
Yeah.
right.
All
Thanks,
right,
All
Celeste.
see
right. Later,
ya.
Chris.
Good
Yeah,
luck.
bye. Thanks.
All right. Thankfully, my dyeing your hair means you like women. I mean, that's accurate. Um, okay. I'm making sure. I'm seeing if I have a troll or not. We'll see. I'm not sure if this person's being serious or not. Anyway, we can move on to the Bill Lustig
Yeah, they're
double.
not. I don't know if you check the chat. I think it is.
Yeah. Okay. We get these every once in a while. I appreciate the engagement.
Yeah.
I can put this user in timeout. I like that. You're in
Perfect.
timeout.
I
I get to feel like a preschool teacher or something, you know. All right. Violation of Claudia. I gotta be honest, I don't have a ton to say about these. These felt more like standard issue sort of things. To me. And I mean, like, they're a little, there's something more there, and that, like, I think they are shot really nicely.
Mhm.
But other than that, yeah, I don't know. These were also just kind of short and just sort of paint by numbers to me. So I don't have a ton to say about them other than that I thought they were fine. But it sounds like you have a lot to say about them. So I'm excited to hear what that is.
Yes, I am very excited, particularly to talk about the violation of Claudia, because so and for people listening, Picorama, this is their line, obviously, because it's a double, but most Picorama titles don't have special features very often. They might have like a trailer or two, maybe an interview here and there, but for the most part, they're just the movies and at best trailers. This one actually has two commentaries, one on each movie, with Bill Lustig and Nicholas Winding Refn, and they're great conversations because it's mostly, this is, I think, a great, because Bill Lustig was like 21 when he made this movie, which is crazy. He was like 21 or 20. He had just finished like film school, which is so crazy to me. And he shot these back to back. But he talks a lot about production in all the people like that he worked with and how he got the money for it. And Refn was like genuinely an engaging interviewer. And he is a patron saint of restorations for like stuff like this, not just for Bill Lustig stuff, because they were going to make like a Maniac Cop HBO series together. They had like a lot of stuff they were working on, and I've actually seen them in person. I saw Maniac about 9 years ago. It was screening here at the American Cinematheque, and the interview on stage was Bill Lustig and Refn. But he also, Nicholas Winding Refn paid for like the restoration of like Ray Dennis Steckler movies, the Ormond family movies, that the series that Indicator put out.
That I know that he's attached to.
Yeah, Wild Guitar. I don't know if he did the whole Ray Dennis Steckler set, but Wild Guitar, which is like considered Ray Dennis Steckler's most accessible movie, he helped restore that too. So I think it's really cool that he helps with a lot of this stuff. But and I know those commentaries were ported from the DVD that Distribix put out a long time ago. But
Okay.
But either way, so the movie The Violation of Claudia was was made in 1977. It's about a housewife who is very wealthy but very bored with her life, because her husband's very busy and doesn't spend much time with her and doesn't really pay attention to her. And her tennis instructor basically starts to become her pimp and like starts helping her like become like a prostitute and like do sex work. And by the way, the movie is an hour and 1 minute. It's 61 minutes. It's very short. And it's crazy how much gets packed into this length. But Sharon Mitchell is the lead. She's the housewife, and Jamie Gillis is the tennis instructor. And what I really like about the movie, first off, it feels more like, it doesn't feel like a hardcore film. It feels more like a softcore film. Like it's shot like with very similar to Fireworks Woman, where it's like very soft lighting, like almost has this like gauzy feel to it. Like there's an opening dream sequence he says was inspired by Belle de Jour, and which is again why I love this kind of stuff. Like when you watch Golden Age stuff, because these filmmakers were oftentimes not just making adult films, they would go make like exploitation films after. A lot of times they have the same influences that like a Spielberg would have or whatever, being like, yeah, I saw this Kurosawa film and this is the opening, is like, so here it's Belle de Jour. But it's just this very artful dream sequence of like Sharon Mitchell being pleased by a group of women. And I have to say, like, the attraction between Jamie Gillis and Sharon Mitchell, like their chemistry is electric in this movie. Like I'm not even talking about a sex scene. I'm talking about like just when she first is like playing tennis with him, there's just this like body language they use, and then they have like lunch together in the cafeteria at the tennis court, and like there's a lot of they're saying like with their body language and that you normally would save for like an erotic thriller or something. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this movie just makes it a point to be like it really tries to push up the eroticism, even with its more taboo elements. At one point, Sharon Mitchell's dealing with like or one of the characters, I believe it's Sharon Mitchell, is dealing with like a guy who's not even out of high school yet. And you could make those implications in a movie like this, I guess, in 1977. But
Mm-hmm.
it it starts
Yeah.
to have a concern. Like I thought the ending was actually looping back around to like a conservative viewpoint on marriage, and it has a great final twist and a great freeze frame
Oh
while the
yeah, yeah,
credits
yeah, yeah,
roll.
yeah. Okay, 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 okay. It had been a minute. These are
So
the ones I watched
it,
first, and it's been a minute. I really do not want to spoil the ending of this movie. It is an all timer. It's so
it
good.
truly is. It really is. Because I was looking at my letterbox review, and I even wrote I normally do not get hung up on star ratings, but
Mm-hmm.
in this case I did, because this was just a nice 3.5 star movie, and that ending bumped it up to a 4 for me. It really
Mm-hmm.
truly, for a movie that's an hour long, it really does have it all.
Yeah.
Like it's really incredible.
No, yeah,
So
this was teetering on like it's kind of nothing to me. It's fine. Like I might get rid of this Blu-ray after the review is done or whatever. And then that last shot, and I was like, nope, this is a keeper. This is one
yep,
that I'm gonna show to people. This is a banger.
100%. And the second film, Hot Honey, I did not like. It's
Mm-hmm.
just about a woman named Honey who's like a virgin and won't put out for her boyfriend, and she has like her brother is also played by Jamie Gillis, who's like in a wheelchair. But she has like a sexual, like she suddenly has a sexual experience, and it like awakens her, and she becomes really, really, really horny. And it just, I don't know, it obviously is the less artistic of the two. It really is just like one scene to another of like hardcore. I at the beginning it opens like in like an arcade or like like a skee ball or something. I don't remember. Like they're just playing pinball or something, and it's like this cool New York, second unit photography type thing, and then it's just like one hardcore scene after another, and I was personally bored out of my mind. I thought this one, I think it's worth owning for The Violation of Claudia. I do think
Mm-hmm.
it's truly like that's such a special film, and this is kind of the inverse where he clearly, you might as well have filmed everybody counting their money. Like it truly felt like did not feel
Okay.
like the same,
So
you
that
know.
one wasn't just me. I was kind of like, oh man, I don't remember a single thing about this. So I hope you do.
Yeah.
It sounds like you do, but had a similar take.
Yep.
Yeah, another interesting thing about it worth mentioning is just that the title, "The Violation of Claudia," I'm not. You seem to
Oh,
you seem to say it's not accurate. I'm like, I think it's a little bit unclear, but it doesn't feel like it's accurate. Like the title definitely, and like knowing who made it, you feel like you're in for like something
mhm.
nasty, and then it's like not. It's like just kind of fun and pretty and nice. Like,
I agree. Yeah, I was surprised. I'm like, for a movie called The Violation of Claudia, um, it truly feels like at no point, even with like the weirder scenes in the movie. So to quote, I put that in air quotes. It's still not anything like, for considering what movies not just Bill Lustig directed, but like that Jamie Gillis and Sharon Mitchell have starred in. Really, truly, this at no point did I feel like Claudia was being violated.
hmm, yeah, maybe for like a second, because like when
Yeah,
they start their interaction, it's not really like he doesn't really ask, but like
right.
when it gets going, it's clear that she's not fighting it or anything. So like it's a little bit questionable maybe from like a modern consent standpoint or
Sure.
whatever, but
That's
like
that's a good
it's
point.
not
Yeah.
it's not violation in like the way that you're anticipating in something like
Mhm.
this, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like questionable, and then it becomes overall like a thing that she's clearly consenting to.
Yeah.
Yeah, the commentaries, I only had time because I was cramming all the special features today. That's been my whole day today. I only had time to watch half of the first one, but it was a good commentary. I enjoyed it. So, if you're really into commentaries, like for sure. Check that shit out. It's
Mhm.
pretty good, I think. And yeah, I think it's just like when he mentioned Belle de Jour, I've not seen that film in particular, but like, yeah, okay, this is a guy that like likes art movies and is attempting to make one in the confines of what this is, and like you can tell, you know. And that's
Totally,
something I always
totally.
appreciate with these things is like,
Same.
well, this is the task I've been assigned more often than not. And not a ton of these people went in like I'm passionate about making porn, but it's like where can I sneak the things I am passionate about into this project? And I thought that was a nice I think you could tell it was definitely like thoughtfully crafted, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it feels more like a later Gerard Damiano movie at some points than it does like a Roger Watkins or something where he doesn't want to be associated with it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you want to hit up the last one?
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited to talk about this one.
Me too. I thought that this one was a lot of fun. I really liked it. So this is. I'm not going to show you the back of the slip because I can kind of get away with it. Here's a front, inside Jennifer Wells, and then here's a back. I kind of flashed it already, but whatever. It's a drawing, okay? YouTube police, don't come for me. So Jennifer Wells is one of my favorite adult performers, just across the board.
Mhm.
She's so gorgeous, but then also like she's having so much fun in every movie that she's in. Like she just owns it, and like I think this is a co-director sort of deal with her and Joe Sarno. I don't know how much she actually played a role in directing, but she's credited at least as a director.
She didn't direct at all. She didn't direct
Okay.
at all. Like just
Okay.
yeah, she just it's kind of like the point of the credit, but it fits
Mhm.
with what the movie is. And to be honest, I don't think Joe Sarno was heartbroken over it either.
It still though it feels like she's in charge of it. You know, as you're watching it, it's
Mhm.
like this is my project, and like maybe you'll do the job of directing, but like you know, it's all about
Yeah.
me, and we're doing my thing here. You know, and like um yeah, essentially, okay, so all it is just like Jennifer Wells gets in a cab and they're driving around New York City, and at various points in this journey, she's like, ah, that reminds me of this one time, and then you see this one time, and it's just fun. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's okay. So just to kind of so people know, if a movie starts with the word inside, if it's inside Jennifer Wells, inside deep inside Annie Sprinkle, inside Little Oral Annie, that's a series, and they're mostly wall to wall sex films. They will find the flimsiest excuse for a plot, and
Hmm.
they all use the same music. By the way, there's a song that kind of plays like this little keyboard esque, weird alien sound that plays like during the sex scenes that like it almost has that kind of
Hmm.
like this weird, but they use it in all of the inside movies, and it's the characters kind of breaking the fourth wall in certain ways. In this one not so much, it's more voiceover, but in
Hmm.
like the Annie Sprinkle one, which I highly recommend, and the Inside Little Oral Annie one, which I do not recommend, they break the fourth wall. They look at the camera directly and they talk about different things that they like, supposedly. And it's obviously tailored to probably, I think Deep Inside Annie Sprinkle does sell it a lot better. She does, I have a feeling half the stuff there she does like. Um, but Inside Jennifer Wells is it's so it's a yeah, so it's a showcase for these actors. They're pretty much in every scene. And the production company, I think it was Caballero Video, I know it was like this was a Quality X release, but I could be wrong. But I think this one
It
was
is.
also,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it is. Okay, so they paid a lot of money to these actors to be in the movie and put their name on it. Like, and so it's obviously mixed results, but I think this one, yeah, I think it's great. I think because here's something we're kind of talking about off mic before we started recording with Chris, which was that, during the 70s into the 80s, as long as especially male talent in porn could perform, that was enough. What they looked like truly didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And also age was dealt with a lot differently. Georgina Spelvin, Jennifer Wells, like these actors started at a much later age. And Jennifer
I
Wells
think
didn't technically.
I think in the Rialto Report podcast, which I re-listened to because it's included as an extra. She said that she was 35 when she was first cast, and I'm like, That's actually like kind of inspirational to like do something this subversive and this cool that late. Like I know that 35 is not old, but like especially in like any sort of creative field, there's like that sort of vibe that like it's a young person's game, you know, and like to just be this
Yes.
awesome like at 35 and just like do this is like I don't know, I found it really inspirational and really cool.
And MILF porn didn't exist yet.
Right.
So like this isn't marketed as her being a MILF or like a
Uh-huh.
woman of a certain age. That is
Yeah,
not at
no.
all brought up. And same thing with Georgina Spelvin. Like when she did Devil and Miss Jones, I believe she was around the same age. She was already,
Mm.
and funnily enough, what they both have in common is they both started in sexploitation. So Jennifer Wells obviously wasn't afraid to get naked prior to this. She started hardcore pretty late. Like this was
Mm-hmm.
77, 78, and she started, I want to say around 74 or 75. And she had already been doing sexploitation, and in Distropix put out Career Bed and Sex by Advertisement earlier in the year in February. That's technically Jennifer Wells is the lead in Career Bed, and Georgina Spelvin is kind of like the narrator in Sex by Advertisement. But those were a full 10 years before this movie.
Yeah.
So Jennifer Wells was not like a stranger to nudity at all. But what I love about the film is you obviously get some great New York photography, but yeah, she totally owns it. And let me tell you, for an inside movie, as short as her career was, the scenes that and the scenarios she does in this movie are like career spanning. Like what I mean by that is when people start porn, they usually start by just doing hardcore scenes, and then eventually they work up to like two guys and a girl, or two girls and a guy, and eventually to gangbangs and all that kind of stuff. This movie literally charts that same course to every type of fetish. So like she's like, as she's driving around one place, she's like, oh yeah, I was really I really wanted a hairy guy. So there's a guy that's which by the way, they're all hairy. Every guy is hairy in this movie, but there's one guy who just because he has a beard and long
Well, he's
hair,
also got really
he's
long. He's like a metal guy. He's got like a leather jacket on and
yes.
stuff, and so like
Yeah,
he's
that's
got it
true.
going on, you know.
And then right, that's true. Yeah, he does have a swag.
He
And
kind of looks like a friend of mine, to
um
be honest. It was kind of funny.
and then after that she at one point she's like, "Oh, I also like big boys." And there's
Hmm.
like there's a guy she visits that's we'll say
He's
a
a
little
fat
bit
guy.
big boned. Yeah, he's a
He's a
fat
fat
guy.
guy.
It-
That's a scene I
but
wanted to talk about because I actually really liked it because like fat phobia is something that has been on my mind a
yes.
lot the past year or so, and just how pervasive it is. And I don't feel like they're weird about it or they fetishize it or anything. It's just like, you know what? Fat guys are hot, and so I wanted to fuck a I wanted to fuck a fat guy, and then he's just like, hell yeah, let's go. And there's like a really kind of funny like maybe it's a little bit offensive, but I like the way that the scene ends.
Oh,
And he
I
just
do
kind of
too,
gets up and
actually.
goes, and she's just like, but like
Yeah.
as far as like a porn from the 70s, like making the scene about fatness, like I thought it was pretty good. And like the bar
Yeah.
is very low, but like I thought it was pretty good.
Do you know who that is, by the way, right? The guy?
I don't.
Oh, it's Carter Stevens, who went on to direct a few movies on the Picorama line.
Mm-hmm.
Roller Babies and Mount of Venus. He
Got you.
directed. He not great films by any means. But I have such a back catalog to get through from their Blu-rays, and I remember
Mm-hmm.
even back when I saw those before I started buying Picораmas again, I was not crazy about it. But either film. But like, yeah, it's just cool that it's also like someone who works in the business, and then from they wait, there's a scene before that. Okay, we need to talk about this scene as well. This is what a good sport she is and how hilariously committed she was to the bit. Because I don't know, you could see this all as like I don't know, there's some of it like there's a scene again, I don't know if interracial was even a thing at that point, but like, there's a scene where she's where she is with a woman, and then in the when they finish, she's like, "What's wrong?" She's like, "Well, I just need a dick." And Gilbert, I always mess up his last name. I think it's Palmentier, comes in and has sex with her. But again, that's another thing where, like I say, like in, that's a currency now in porn. Like you work your way up to interracial because that's where you kind of want your value to go up, so to speak. Um, and in this movie, she does that scene. And again, I don't even know if that was even like a controversial thing at that point, or if this was still
Mm-hmm.
like post free love. But before that, there's a scene where they pass a movie theater, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that theater. I had a thing with a projectionist." So a movie of hers is playing on screen, and the projectionist, who's kind of like implied to be like a drunk, even though he could still get it up, starts watching from the projection booth her scene and starts jerking off. And she walks in, and he's sitting there. And it's, by the way, it's Arbola, who I always forget his real name, but he's like, it's amazing. This guy had a career in porn, because he's like just the like a guy you would not think anybody would look at and be like, well, there's a hunk and a half. You know what I mean? Like, it's so funny. This guy always has like incredible scenes. But anyway, he turns around. He's like, "Oh my God, it's Jennifer Wells!" And then she joins him, and they start. She goes down on him, and while she's going down on him, you can hear the movie in the background, and it's her. It's just audio of her saying, more men, give me more dicks, give me more dicks." And she finishes pleasing all the men, and she's like, I forget the name of it, but she's like, bring the horse.
The horse is named Blackie.
That's right. It was Blackie.
Maybe
Yes.
not
Thank
great,
you, Blackie.
but
Oh, not at
Yeah.
all. Not at all. But yeah, that's even funnier that I forgot it, because that is, boy, well, that's a choice. But it's implied while she's blowing this guy that she's like taking on a horse. Like, the guys are helping her take on this horse, and she's like screaming like, "Oh yes, you're my favorite!" And it's
Mhm.
obviously like she has such a good sense of humor about herself to actually do like ADR for that scene to
Okay.
you know what I
so This
mean?
is the thing that I was gonna ask. Because I was not sure if these Inside series were just like clip shows, to just kind of like repackage existing scenes that maybe they couldn't fit into other movies or something like that.
Mhm,
It seems like these were all shot for this movie. And so I was like, is there a different movie where she fucks a horse? Because that's crazy. And then I was like, no, that can't be right. And so what I was picturing is that she's just fucking a guy with such a big dick that she calls him a horse, and then he makes a neighing sound, and like that's the joke. But it seems like it's entirely that it's the former, but it's in ADR so that it's like they can go as extreme as they want because it's just the sounds or whatever, right?
Well, okay, so yes, you're right. This was shot all it like in the moment. It was okay, so not in the moment. Sorry, what I meant to say was, yeah, it was shot for this movie specifically, as was Deep Inside Annie Sprinkle. However, the Inside Little Laurel Annie movies, which was also Little Laurel Annie Takes Manhattan, those two were not clip shows, but they were very clearly, they just shot a bunch of scenes and split them between two movies.
Mm.
It's so obvious. And so yeah, this absolutely was something they made for the movie. Like, this was everything before this. Nothing was. If it was, I'm happy to be wrong, but not that I'm aware of. So it's very, very cool that that she actually like was just willing to have so much fun with it, you know. I think that's great. Like, she has such a good sense of humor about herself, but also she's so beautiful, like just complete, but so electric. And so now that we've covered that scene, we get to the climax of the movie, no pun intended. But she obviously, it can culminate in only one way, which is a bunch of guys having dinner. Is thank you, Diana. Sorry, there's a very funny comment that got placed that may or may not be from someone I know. And the second to last scene is a bunch of men at dinner, and she is the main course. She basically pleases like 7 guys, because that was like her dream, and her dream comes true. And then this is the only weird thing in the movie that was very, very strange, that I think even as just, I guess, a sign of the times.
Yeah,
then
this wasn't great.
all the servers that are working at this dinner party, who are all Asian, that part's very important, she then lets them all have a go around with her. And while it's happening, there's like this weird stereotypical Asian song playing. Like, it's just like, na, 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 you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Just real,
it's not great.
it's really weird. And also, clearly, with the exception of one guy, I think none of those guys were professional actors. I think they're all like amateur guys. I could be wrong, but I didn't get the vibe that a lot of those guys, because they were not they weren't good performers. They like got the job done, but they barely got it done. So yeah, but then it kind of like, it doesn't exactly redeem itself, but there's then a shot of her laying naked with all the guys kind of surrounding her, and this text comes up that says that this all actually did happen. She had sex with 73 guys in one night, and that this is adapted from her memoirs, which is a very funny, tongue-in-cheek kind of like, just, yeah, it doesn't fully redeem the scene that just happened. Yes, exactly. And yeah.
I want to circle back to the lesbian scene real quick, because I really liked the other performer. I thought she was great. She's like, has like this very dark, like lesbian haircut, like tattoos. She's got the like Labrador necklace on. I'm like, this is my type going on right here. Like, this is somebody I would be friends with in real life for sure. And I'm like, she's like, I didn't regret a second of this. I wasn't sure about it, but it was amazing. And then at the end, she's like, how'd you like that? And she's like, well, yeah, it was nice, but I need a dick. You know what I'm saying? And so for a second, I was like, oh, that's a bummer. You gotta be weird about it. But then she was just like, yeah, that checks out. All right. And then she brings in the guy and it's like, here you go. And then she watches it and it's like a communal thing. I don't know. I thought it was nice. It was like, we're all just gonna say what we want and everybody wins. And I thought it was a nice scene with like a very like clear like lesbian represented without being too weird about it, you know, like with the exception of like naming the horse Blackie and then this like weird Chinese scene at the end. Like, you know, there's a lot of scenes, so your mileage may vary, but there was parts of this that were more progressive or felt less gross than I think the average person tasked with doing this would have made it, you know?
I agree. Yeah, wholeheartedly. I think, well, because like I said, the Inside series is just basically wall-to-wall sex, and it does give people what they paid for, but how they clothesline that is what makes or breaks these films. And so this and Deep Inside Annie Sprinkle, I think both have great clotheslines, great New York photography, just great time capsule stuff. And they're just both very convincing. I think for Annie Sprinkle, it's because she is, she lives her truth when it comes to kink and sex. You know, she's still actively involved to this day in that. And I think Jennifer Wells is kind of the inverse. She's just a great, she just has this showmanship. She's just so magnetic and so beautiful. And it's actually, I think, quite a great note. While the movie doesn't end on a good note, I think the movie itself is a good, because this is the last film she did. She very abruptly retired because she married like a rich fan and divorced him, probably hustled him, and you know what, more power to her.
Well, it was a bit sadder than that. She left her partner of like 17 years because like he was less stable financially and he was like a traveling musician, and like this rich guy was like, yo, you're set if you marry me, but you leave everybody you've ever known, you come live with me, you stop it with the acting because you're just mine now. And she made a very strategic financial decision and was with him until he died, I think. But like her previous partner died and she was like, yeah, I regretted that every single day since then. Like, I shouldn't have done that. Like, I miss him, and like I kind of sold my soul to like be comfortable. So it's sad, but like it is a nice way to go out for like a short-lived but very impactful career, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because one of the few Picorama doubles I missed was the one from last year, which was like Little Orphan Sammy, and I forget what the other one was called.
It was,
but I know they were. That's right,
it was
Little
the very
Blue Box.
first title I reviewed on this segment.
Oh, very cool. Oh, I actually remember that now. Yeah, because you said it was like really only for real heads only. Like it's not something that people should like seek out if they want, because
it's fun.
They're just
in fact, I was just sort of getting started with this, so I was like, "There's not too much here," but in retrospect, I think there's a lot of stuff there that's fun. I think you would like it in particular, so I think.
Okay, then I'll check it out then. Okay, cool. That's good to know because I wasn't sure. Like it seemed like a weaker double. So I'll next when they have the Valentine sale, I'll pick it up. But yeah, okay. So now we have to talk about one more thing in the
Yeah, I was
special
gonna say
features
one
of this.
last thing.
In
It
this
is a film.
essential.
Is a short film
Go
that
on.
does not exist on Letterboxd right now, but I added it to the TMDB database and I sent Letterboxd an email, so hopefully I'll be able to log it soon. God, what is the name of? Is it Ball Box or
Box
something
Ball?
like that?
No, Box Ball. Okay, so if people listening, it's CBT. It's a CBT. It's what is now known as CBT, which stands for cock and ball torture.
Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes, which you're going to need after you see this. And it's a short film of a couple, and she just loves this woman who sounds like a 50-year-old chain smoker. Is obsessed with balls, and her partner, when they're having sex, she does all sorts of things to his balls, twisting them any way you can imagine, as many times as you can imagine, and eventually fitting them in with his dick inside of her. And she ends it with saying, "Hey, if you have a guy with big balls, why don't you tell him to give me a call?" And it has to be seen to be believed how she tortures this guy, because I don't even know if it's torture, but
I mean,
when it cuts to his,
but it does seem almost like medically unsound at a certain point where I'm like, woof.
It cuts to his face at a certain point, and the face that he makes is just incredible, because it's just like he clearly at a certain point has clocked out. So this is a feature you could watch on the Blu-ray. I did not watch it on the Blu-ray. I was lucky enough about 2.5 years ago to see this short on 35 millimeter.
Wow.
It screened. So the Phil, the programmer at the New Beverly, gave Joe Rubin a night of a Vinegar Syndrome night, sort of 2 adult features. He showed Farewell Scarlet and Kitty's Pleasure Palace, which I don't think to this day has a Blu-ray release. It's a very,
Farewell Scarlet is a lot of fun.
Oh, and it's really fun with the crowd. It's really fun with the crowd. But he put Box Ball in front of Farewell Scarlet, and it was sold out, and the audience was losing their minds. It was an incredible collective experience. There truly is nothing like it.
You hyped it to shit, and I was like, all right, what am I in for? And I was like, okay, yeah, this is pretty incredible. But to see it in the crowd as a surprise, that's like, I don't know.
Yeah, on celluloid, no less. Like I can obviously, like when this back in its day when it was made, I'm sure it made the rounds in some capacity on like in loops. But the fact that someone blew this up to 35 and put it somewhere is just kind of incredible. So it's amazing. I'm so grateful that he included that with the 2 movies. But yeah, I even say to my Letterboxd review, just on that short alone, you need to get this Blu-ray. But no, I think it's a very worthwhile Blu-ray. It's packed with features. It's a super fun movie, and it also just has this incredible short that is it should be viewed with a crowd. It should be like, get some friends, be like, all right guys, we're watching Box
sneak
Ball.
it into a movie marathon and just let that happen. Yeah, this is when I started it, I was like, okay, so it's a short film, presumably she's in it. And then I was like I was like, that's not Jennifer Wells. When is she going to show up? And it never happens. And I was like, okay. So I looked it up, and apparently this was something that was played before Inside Jennifer Wells, like on its theatrical run. And that's why it's included here. So that's cool for like historical posterity, but also it's a thing worth preserving, I think.
Oh, 1000%. And for people wondering, when I'm saying what the couple looks like, it looks more like a couple that would be out of like Bat Pussy. So if anyone knows that movie, that kind of, it almost looks like Regional. Like it's crazy to think that like somehow this got looped in with like a relatively classy affair by comparison.
I will say she wasn't wrong. His balls are huge, and like, it was impressive. So I'll just
right. And the fact that she got them in there, it's like, this must have been like a traveling show or something at like sex club, at like strip clubs or something.
Well, on that note, I think that's everything.
Yeah.
There is a booklet in here that I didn't get a chance to read all of it, but I read some of it, and it's by Ashley West, so that means without fail, it's worth reading. Get it for sure. It should be on the standard edition because it's just a booklet, which is nice for my shelf space and my I don't feel the need to instigate FOMO by being like, you gotta get this limited edition. There's a great essay. Like, it's just in there. I'm probably gonna hang up that Fireworks Woman poster
Yes.
in my house and let that be a barometer for who is cool enough to hang out with me. And that's it, I think. Smaller crowd tonight, but that's okay. I had a lot of fun doing this, and I want to thank you for your time. We've been here for 2.5 hours, so
Wow.
yeah, I appreciate it.
No, thank you, Celeste. This is always a blast. I'm always down to talk the Melusine side of the equation when
We
it
might
comes
have
to
to
punk
do
vacation.
maybe not live, but we might have to record a conversation for November because it's so intimidating and like it's a lot, and I think that it would make for a fruitful conversation.
Oh, I agree, and let's bring Chris back for some of it too, because I think he actually watched Behind the Green Door, but there's more Sato and there's more like also. I am so hyped. Even if the movies don't impress, I'm very hyped to talk about the Distrib Pix double and finally a Jess Franco porno, which is like they're not all very good, but this one supposedly is. I actually this is a blind spot for me, so I'm like really. So I totally would be down for a November chat.
Yeah, let's do it. You know what? And like also I'm going to be doing the Connie release too, I think. And before we started recording, Chris was like, "Oh, I wish we were talking about this tonight." So you know what? We might do another three-way for November and just do it pre-recorded. Yeah.
Good reminder to watch
exciting.
those. I forgot that was in my November box. It was such a tall order. Included the December
He said it was like
partner
very
title.
cute and charming, which is not something I typically expect from the Melusine side of things, but especially if it's like not overtly a porn, because like that usually means it's like got some more transgressive sexual elements in it or something. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. But that's what y'all have to look forward to for next time. I can't guarantee when it'll be out because it is, I mean, truly an astonishing stack that I have to get through. And I only have, but I do have multiple jobs and a social life, and I can't just be watching porn all day like I did today. So we'll see how it goes.
And hey, and congrats on the New Wave, the announcement.
Thank you
for that film. Very cool. Very cool.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. There's more on the way. I can't reveal anything, but there's definitely more to come. So we're out here doing the thing. Professional critic, officially, I guess.
Hell yeah. Okay. Congrats.
Thank you. All right. Thanks y'all for being here. Thank you. And I'll see you next week.